So we have our server up and running. We want to now start installing stuff on it and configuring things on it. So back here, I'm actually logged into the server right now, and I need to set it up. Now, how you go about setting up your server and deploying applications and all that good stuff will vary a bunch depending on your use case. One thing I'm going to do here is set up the server with stuff I need on it, and I'm going to make from that a server image that I can use again in the future. Now, I'm doing this manually, but there are automated ways to do this, which you can investigate as well if you use a tool such as Packer, which I have a course on Cloudcast, or you can use an AWS service called Image Builder, and there's a bunch of ways to do it. You can do it manually, like I'll show you here as well. What I'm going to do here is install and configure stuff on this server. So I'm going to actually create a new file called setup.sh, and we're going to paste a good old bash script in here. It's going to do a bunch of stuff. It's going to run bash. It's going to do set -e, so it's going to fail on the first error. And then I'll do things. I'm going to install a repository to get current versions of PHP, run apt-get update, and then install stuff. So CA certificates, curl, wget, JQ, zip, blah, 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 just some utilities. Nginx is going to get installed. Supervisor will get installed so it can run background processes, which I'm going to use for a queue worker. It's going to install PHP 8.1, which is the latest as of this video. Composer to get PHP dependencies. It's going to set the PHP FPM process. The thing that accepts web requests is going to run it as user Ubuntu so that my application can also be run as user Ubuntu. So permissions just become easier for me in this case. These are all details that don't necessarily matter for this course, but just because I need to get this up and running and because you might be interested to see it for PHP and Laravel applications, I'll run through it real quick. PHP FPM gets restarted because I made a configuration change. I'm going to configure Nginx. So this is the server configuration I'm going to use. It's not going to accept SSL traffic right now. The location that's going to serve out of is going to be the home Ubuntu onboarding AWS directory, the public directory within that. It's configured so that PHP requests get sent to PHP FPM. And there's really not much else that's interesting about this. This is just going to throw this configuration into the sites enabled default location where Nginx will read it. We reload Nginx after that. And then we install some things that are optional that you may or may not want to use. The first thing is a Cloudwatch Agent, which you can use. It's an AWS official agent. It will read log files and ship those logs to Cloudwatch. So we're going to install it. These are just from the install instructions for Linux that are available in the AWS docs. I'm going to configure it. The configuration goes in opt AWS Cloudwatch Agent, etc, Amazon Cloudwatch Agent.d with a config file that ends in .json. It's going to have this content, which is going to ship logs that it finds in the Laravel log, also the Nginx access log and the Nginx error log. And that's all we're going to do for now here. So we'll save and quit that, and we can run it. So sudo bash setup.sh, we can see if this is going to work. While that's installing, I'm going to SSH into the server also in a new tab here. I'm going to go to, I'm in my home directory, so I can do -p onboarding AWS public, and we'll head into that directory. And we're going to make a new index.php file here, and it's just going to dump PHP info. So we have a nice screen showing us the information about PHP at that location. Back over in this tab, that's still going. So once this is finished, we can go ahead and see if it all worked. Okay, that is all installed. So PHP-v, you'll see it's 8.1. And the next-t says our configuration is okay. That's great. So we can copy our public IP address, throw it in a new tab here, and see that we actually do get our PHP info dump there. So that is up and running and working. So one last thing I want to do here is quickly actually make a server image from this. Now, how do we do that? So it's not based on the server, but instead is based on the server's volume. The one here that we want is the onboarding AW instance volume because of the volume associated with our server. 2 steps to making an AMI, to making a base server image. One is to create a snapshot of this volume. So we're going to create the onboarding AWS snapshot for AMI generation. Doesn't need to be encrypted in our case. Tag, name, onboarding AWS snapshot for making an AMI. Add tag, environment, production for my case, just because we did that before. So we'll stay consistent. We'll create that snapshot. Okay, so we can go to snapshots here, and we can see it's right here, and it's pending. So once this is finished, we can take this snapshot and make an AMI from it. So we'll go ahead and just wait for that. How long does this take? It varies a lot depending on the size of your disk. This disk is pretty small, so once this finishes pending, it actually gets through AWS's internal queue of snapshots to make that'll start going, and it'll be pretty quick. Okay, and under a minute later, that was actually completed. So we have a snapshot here. So just make sure it's selected. And then under actions, we can create an AMI. And that is under here, create image from this snapshot. So we're going to create an image name here. So onboarding AWS. It's an x86 image. It's Ubuntu 20.04 with PHP 8.1. And you can fill in whatever details here you want as well. Noting that you have a limit here, 3 to 128 characters and most of our normal characters and only a few special characters allowed. So my description is going to be simple. Onboarding AWS course server image. It's an x64. The root device is SDA1. That's just where the root device happened to be. All this is completely defaults. Keep this to default. Boot mode is totally fine. You don't need to select any of these options, really. The block device mappings here. So what is the default that it uses? We use GB3 and we'll keep GB3. 8 gigabytes is the size that we used. When you create a new server from this AMI that we're creating, this is all customizable. But what we're setting here are the defaults as well as the minimum size in gigabytes of the disk drive that we can create. The disk drive termination behavior, delete and termination, so get rid of the volume. Also, if we get rid of the server, is the default behavior, but you can uncheck that if you want to make it so your volumes do not get deleted when you delete a server. Keep in mind that if you keep volumes around, you get charged per gigabytes per month. All right, so go ahead and create this image. We're still looking at snapshots here, so we can go ahead and head into AMIs. And we have a bunch of AMIs from other courses I've made here, but we can see our onboarding AWS AMI here is, looks like it's available. Perfect. Let's go ahead and head to tags here, and we'll just name it name onboarding AWS AMI. Okay, so we have our onboarding AWS AMI. That AMI has an ID and a name. It's private. It's just owned under my account. I made it on December 7th. It's based on Ubuntu and all that good stuff. This image can now be used to launch a new server. So if you ever need to launch a new server, and you want it pre-configured, you have this option available to you. You have a base AMI, which has all the things installed on it already that you might need. And you can go crazy with this. You can have applications pre-deployed on it, or you can deploy by making new AMIs, which is something some people do. You can do all sorts of fun things with this base AMI. The very least you can do is have a server image already up and running with PHP on it and all that good stuff, so you don't have to do too much work to make a new server in the future.